Time is running out. This is the final drive of 2025 at Capital Ford. It's your last shot of the year to grab massive dealer discounts, year-end factory incentives, and aggressive trade-in offers. Like a new 25 Ford Explorer with 0% APR for 60 months. Or 0% APR for 60 months plus no payments for 90 days on a new 25 Ford F-150. So hurry for these exceptional end-of-year offers during the final drive of 2025 at Capital Ford in Santa Fe. Time is running out. This is the final drive of 2025 at Capital Ford. It's your last shot of the year to grab massive dealer discounts, year-end factory incentives, and aggressive trade-in offers. Like a new 25 Ford Explorer with 0% APR for 60 months. Or 0% APR for 60 months plus no payments for 90 days on a new 25 Ford F-150. So hurry for these exceptional end-of-year offers during the final drive of 2025 at Capital Ford in Santa Fe.
Good evening and welcome to the Pit Press live on X and on YouTube. I'm your host for this evening, Ed Nunez, along with our producer, Eric Moulton, backstage. And at 8:30, we'll be joined by Rick Thompson, Nick Nunez, and Eric Moulton as we break down UNM's victory over San Jose State last night, a conference opener for the Lobos, winning 88-65 in the Pit. We'll break that down in some other conference games around the league. But our very special guest tonight is Preston Dennard, the former UNM football player from 1974 to 1977, also played professionally with the Los Angeles Rams, the Buffalo Bills, and the Green Bay Packers. Been trying to get this gentleman on for a while. Preston, thanks so much for coming on the show.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
You know, Preston, a lot of people remember you. We got some questions, and we're going to ask you. I remember you. I remember watching you play, and those the Zia on the helmets and the turquoise uniforms were actually worn by your team back then, and Coach Eck brought them back out. And when I saw them, it reminded me when Coach Patino brought the turquoise uniforms out for the basketball team, and it reminded me of Marvin Johnson, Will Smiley. So those memories, I remember those uniforms. But Preston, you played for UNM from 1974 to 1977. Your team had a winning record. I remember Coach Bill Mott in 1975 going 6-5. What do you remember best about your time? Set some records there. We'll get to that later. About your time at UNM, what do you remember best about it?
I remember everything. I remember, I can just say the experience I had at UNM was exciting, outstanding. I accomplished something probably never thought I could accomplish. Not that I didn't think that much of my ability to play the game, but you just never foresee where the end results will fall. And if they fall as great as the experience I've had, then it's truly a blessing. You look back on it and go, wow, I didn't see that coming, but thank God it was me.
So you had a lot of success there, and again during that time, UNM. I remember going to some of those games and listening to Mike Roberts. You had some. You played with Mike Williams, the great running back, whose pictures on the UNM stadium. You played with Robin Cole. You played with some great teammates. I think with Bruce Herron. Did Bruce Herron play with you?
Yeah, Bruce Herron played with us too, and played with a lot of guys. Played with this guy, Steve Meyer.
Yeah, we're going to talk about him. I think people forgot about him.
I just happened to pull this out because I'm writing a book, and I had to pull some photos out over my years. So I was glad to find that. Didn't realize I had it. Oh, and I found an old Lobo one. Bill Canty, my offensive coordinator back in those days.
And again, for people watching, look at the uniform. Can you hold that one more time?
Oh, yeah, one more time.
Yeah, look at that. Look at the uniforms that Lobos wore back then. So Coach Eck bought them out, and those are the ones that started at all those uniforms back then. You made the All-WAC team, and remember, Preston, for our listeners and viewers that are watching, it was the WAC back then. Arizona State. I remember Arizona State coming in here with Frank Cush, Danny White. T. Bell from Arizona. I remember a lot of those guys, and playing for the Kit Carson rifle back in the day in the old WAC. You made the All-WAC team as a freshman. I believe you beat out John Washington, who would become John Jefferson at Arizona State, the first Lobo freshman to accomplish that feat. What did that mean to you?
Well, it was quite a surprise. The way that story goes is I had just gotten home after my freshman year. And a lot of people don't realize back in those days, they had a freshman football team, and I was part of the freshman team. And I think it was probably the third week of the season. The varsity moved me up to start on the varsity in front of a guy named Steve Bauer, who ended up being our permanent punter. And he was a senior, but they moved me up. I ended up eventually, when I got home for Christmas break, I saw on TV I'd made all-conference team. No idea that was even possible to happen. And the other reason for that is you mentioned John Washington, who ends up being John Jefferson, a good buddy of mine. We competed for 4 years in the conference, and how he and I both didn't serve on the same conference teams within our 4 years, I'll never understand. I made it my freshman year, which I think he should have been the guy that made it. I should have made it my sophomore year, but he made it. They were number one in the nation, or tied, and national champions. And then my junior year, I made it, and he should have made it. My senior year, it was what it was. But that's what I remember is the entire journey, what it took to accomplish the things I accomplished. And all my teammates, I remember, they were wonderful. I still have great friends today from that team, and very proud to say that if I'm correct, we probably are still the couple of years, my junior and senior year, the most players to come out and be drafted from our Lobo teams. And so it was really good. It was a lot of fun, and we competed very well, won some games, just missed out on a bowl game, missed out on a conference tying championship, I think, my sophomore year. So a lot of good stuff to look back on and just be happy and excited about the journey.
You mentioned John Washington, and people, JJ, as he became in San Diego, was one of the best receivers in the NFL for many, many years, man. Eric Coryell in San Diego. When he went to Green Bay, I thought with him and James Lofton and Paul Kaufman, they'd tear it up. He didn't have the same success in Green Bay as he did in San Diego, but that guy, for the goggles he used to wear, man, JJ was one heck of a receiver. So, when you mentioned him and you were battling with him, that should tell people exactly where you were at that time. You just pulled out a picture of quarterback Steve Meyer. And, if you look at Lobos that have made the pros as a quarterback, him, Stoney Case, Don Woods made it, but Don Woods was a running back, the rookie of the year for San Diego in 1974. I don't know what other quarterbacks have made it, but talk a little bit about him, because I think for whatever reason, people forgot how good Steve Meyer was.
Oh, Steve was good. He was a junior college All-American when he came to UNM as a junior, and I came in as a freshman. He was the best thing I could have ever had. Coming in as a freshman and having a veteran quarterback, someone who's accomplished so much at the junior college level in Southern California. And I believe he might have gone to Mount Sac. I'm not sure, but he and Gil Stewart came as a package. He was the other wide receiver, same year as Steve, and he played the opposite side of me. Certainly my sophomore year, he started as well. But Steve was a great quarterback. Steve was a couple of things that folks don't realize. Obviously, he's one of the leaders in the nation when I was a freshman and sophomore, and he joined me being one of the top statisticians as far as what he accomplished throwing the ball. But he knew me very well. He could throw the ball well to me. He knew how I ran routes. He just anticipated, and he knew I'd catch the ball. I remember after my sophomore year, his senior year, he said, we played New Mexico State. I believe that might have been the last game of the season. It was a heck of a game, a lot of points, a lot of throws, catches, and all that. And I think I needed like 30 some yards, 40 yards maybe, to get 1,000 yards. And I think I had 960 something. I don't know. And he told me after the game, he says, "Daggone it, Preston, if you'd have told me you needed that, I'd have just called the plays to you for the last 2 plays of the drive." Yeah. And I said, "No, that's not what it's about. I had a great time." But when he got to the pros and he was drafted 4th round to Seattle, he ended up playing behind Jim Zorn. But every time he got in or got the opportunity to play, he really had great stats. He really produced. And I can remember this personally. We always played them in preseason when I was a rookie, sophomore, second year. I think maybe my first 4 years. He started the game. He played against us. He threw touchdowns. He did well in the league. He just happened to be behind Jim Zorn, which I did play with when I went to Green Bay. But Steve had a really good, solid career. Didn't play as much as he wanted to, but boy, was he the best thing that I could have asked for as a incoming freshman and also a sophomore leading the nation.
You know, Jim Zorn, of course, the former free agent quarterback who made the Seattle Seahawks. I think he was with the Dallas Cowboys then. He got on Seattle and was their quarterback for many, many years. So when you talk about Steve Myers sitting behind him or being behind him, it's Jim Zorn wasn't chopped. He was very, very good. Preston, when you went to the pros, and I read a little bit about this, and I remember this, but you were signed by as a free agent by the Los Angeles Rams, and you wanted to impress Lionel Taylor, and you said in a bit I read about you could always run routes and you had the hands. You played the Super Bowl in 1980 where the Rams were defeated by the Pittsburgh Steelers, and who one of your teammates, Robin Cole, played for Pittsburgh. We had Terrence Mathis on 2 years ago playing in the Super Bowl, and you're playing the world champions who actually ended up winning that game. But talk a little bit about that experience.
Oh, it was a great experience. I mean, like I was saying, I was referring to a book that I'm doing, and many stories in there. But one is, and I'm very point blank, Robin Cole should have been the MVP of Super Bowl XIV. He played that way. He was dominant. I've got a ton of photos of him in our backfield, sacking Vince Ferragamo. I mean, Robin should have been the guy. But it didn't happen. They gave it to some other knucklehead from Pittsburgh. But I tell everybody, we won that game for 3.5 quarters. We just lost the last half of the 4th quarter, which gave them the victory. And I got injured in that game too. But before that game, it was 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl. They dabbled with 1 week before the Super Bowl. Then they went back to 2 weeks prepping for it. But when I played, it was 2 weeks prior. And I had the best 2 weeks of my entire life. I was ready. Dreamed I was going to be the MVP, make my signature diving catch, and be hoisted above the lineman's arm. I mean, I had that old vision. Of course, it didn't turn out that way. But it was one of the largest crowd to ever attend a game at the time. I think at the time it was the largest numbers ever viewed. And again, I look back and oh my gosh, it was Super Bowl XIV. It was early in its life, and now it's Super Bowl XIX. And I tell you, when you look back on it, it's still a joy, a pleasure, just a privilege. Was thrilled. I got a photo of my parents sitting in the stand with their gear on. It was something my dad always looked for. And the book that I'm writing really details how important my dad being there and what he meant for me when I first started playing sports. I had to overcome something, and he was my first mentor. And then I had several more. And certainly, if we get a chance to talk about Lionel Taylor, got a great story about him too. I got plenty, but I've got a wonderful story to tell about him. And unfortunately, today, as we speak, he has since passed. And but what a wonderful guy he was as well.
A couple of months ago, I think he passed away, right? Lionel Taylor.
Yes.
It
Yes,
wasn't
sir.
long ago.
Yes.
You mentioned that about the I had to because I remember this. I was a big Cowboy fan. I remember Billy Waddy catching that pass in 19 against Dallas, and they beat Dallas 21-19. I still remember that. But as Ram, some of your Ram teammates, defensive end Fred Dreyer, defensive end Jack Youngblood, offensive lineman Dennis Hara, had some characters on his teammates, man. Fred Dreyer would go on to star as Hunter. Jack Youngblood played with a broken leg one time, and Dennis Hara was just a character, man. Talk a little bit about some of the teammates you had on the LA Rams.
Well, it was a great storyline, and it was good for our journey. The deal about Jack Youngblood, he had a hairline fracture. Of course, if he had a broke leg, he couldn't have been able to play on it. But he had a hairline fracture. And it was good that we played up on it. And, the warrior and the hero that he is anyway, he was a great leader. And but we all found that to be a neat little story to tell, and how fierce and tough we were. All those guys were wonderful. I came at a time where the old school guys embraced the young guys. And after me, that started to phase out. The guys that played the game back then were great guys. They were competitors, but we will pick each other up off the ground. I could go head to head with Lester Hayes or Mel Blount or Mike Haynes or you name it, or any of those little cowboys. We still would compete as gentlemen, but we would respect each other. And today's guys don't do that. They play the game as if they hate each other, if they want to cause harm and pain and suffering and all that. And that's not what the game is. The game should be entertaining. And those guys were. The Jack Youngbloods, the Hacksaw Reynolds, who's known he got this nickname because he was so ticked off that he lost the game, had a bad game, that he ticked off himself and hacked off half a Jeep, or started cutting into a Jeep that and I saw the Jeep too. So we did have characters. I mean, I tell the story about going in the locker room my rookie year and how different it was from a college locker room. If you whispering in a college locker room, coach thinks you're not ready. They want to see uptight faces drawn and all that. But in the pros, I walked in the locker room, there's guys smoking cigarettes over here in this corner, guys over here with their country music blasting, guys over here with their beatbox going on, cowboys over here putting their shirts and taping their jerseys. Other guys are doing, I saw everything in the locker room, and I went, oh my God, I had to turn around and go, am I in the right place? But they were grown men. It was a job. They knew their assignment. They knew what they needed to do. And so they can turn it on like that and go play the game. And so I respected that. I respected that we were now men playing a game, and we respected each other a little bit different.
Yeah, it's heck, we didn't even mention some of the other Leroy Irvin, Wendell Tyler. I remember those Ram teams, Vince Ferragamo, Ray Malavasi. I remember those Ram teams very well. We're going to switch gears. I wanted to make sure everybody knew about your pro career and your career at UNM. But the UNM football team, Preston, is 9-3 and headed to the Rate Bowl on December 26th in Phoenix. What has been your opinion of head coach Jason Eck and the job he has done this season?
Well, obviously he's done a heck of a job, his entire staff, to turn these kids around, because I've always told everybody, you got to have the players. Got to have a player in a sound system. The only sound system I've seen in here has been Rocky, and then now Coach Eck. There's some things that players look for, and there are scenarios and comfort zones and challenges and everything. This is still football. You still got to get guys to come together, for a common cause. You got to get guys to come in here and uniformly try to play this game and to be successful. But it's got to start with the players. We haven't always had the players here. We've had starters, but we never had starters as backup, meaning guys who are maybe second tiered at Michigan could start anywhere in the country. We don't have that. And so it sounds like we have the ability of a whole bunch of new fresh blood who don't know the old school regime here, who have brought a new energy, and coaches at the helm of that. And so I've had the opportunity twice to be in his presence. I love the way he talks. I met all the coaches. I know there's energy. There's young folks there. And for the first time, they're inviting alumni to be a part of this program. We've never had that before. And when I say we've never had it before, I live here. I'm probably one of two or three guys that lived here. Never been a part of the program since I've been back here in '91. So it's neat that we now have an invitation to feel the fabric of this program again. I get tired of flying elsewhere, standing on everybody else's sideline. So it feels good. It feels good. It feels good. I mean, I talked to a lot of the guys, the Robins, the Andy Fredericks, Steve Meyer in Arizona, Robin, of course, Bruce Heron in Chicago. I mean, there's a lot of guys we're still in touch with. And, I give them a pulse of where the program is. And at 93, you can't shake your head at that. You can't take it lightly, and you can't say, oh, it's just, it's just that. Yeah, it takes a lot to put that together. And where I think it is far greater than what most people think, this is in the first year of a brand new program. And to do that in the Mountain West with the teams that have been dominant to UNM over the years, to have these guys come out, they don't have a clue about some of these rivalries or competitions or any of these games. They have not been together to play against a Wyoming or Colorado State or Nevada's. They don't know anything about that. They just know about playing good ball. So Coach Eck is really responsible for that. And he's responsible for giving them a feel of competition to go out and compete. Well, these guys established their own genre of how they're going to compete, and they've created a personality. But here's a problem, and I know we'll probably get to it, but the problem is what's going to happen next year because of NIL, because of the portal, because you're going to find out you got a bunch of individuals on your program, and if you can have the success of putting them all together on one page before they all scatter, you've done a wonderful thing. So there's no longer tenured in here. You got to go year by year, year by year. So this first year, excellent, outstanding, came together, put it together. The guys are off to the Rate Bowl, very successful program. They could potentially come away with 10-win season. And if so, they've got a great start. But the key is, can you keep it intact? Because it'll change in a heartbeat with guys scattering all over the place. And this is not the game that I know.
It's a great point. You're right. We were going to get to that. You're right. We were going to ask about that. And I think one of the things, it takes chemistry, a special blend of players. They got all of that this year, all of it. Coaching, you mentioned that, and everything's worked well for them this year. He's a gambler. He's not afraid to take chances, and the chance. We thought there was going to be a ground and pound running game, but it really hasn't been. They run when they needed to. They passed when they needed to. They executed on special teams when they needed to. And so you mentioned, and it's very important to note, Preston, it's a special team this year. We don't know. And that's one of the questions I was going to ask. You're right. The game has changed for college athletes. What is your opinion of NIL and the things that are going on? You just mentioned it in college football. It wasn't going on when you played here. But what's your opinion?
Well, I don't have a favorite team because that favorite team ends up not being your favorite team next year and then the following year. I mean, it's tough to follow a program and all of a sudden you got to re-energize yourself with new spirit of who's in play. The challenge is you don't have what has been wonderful for college sports, and that is the uniformity. That is the longevity of relationships. That is being able to bring continuity together with a program and being dominant. Right now, you got to find a mystery success factor immediately. And if you don't have it this year, it's probably gone out the window. then you got to try to do it next year. Hopefully you get that big group of transfers in that you can do. But guys don't stay there anymore. And you know what? Unfortunately, it's a part of the game that I hate. I really hate it. Do I think young men need to be compensated? I love the fact that a young man I trained here, Cameron Dyer's at ASU, getting a little change. I agree with that. But I also agree with this. I always felt like the end of the road is where the best benefit comes in. It's the reflection of the investment you made in the career. And so if you look back, how many kids are going to come through your program 1 year, maybe 2, then leave, maybe 3? They're not going to be here 4 years unless they're a guy that's struggling to start or to make that traveling squad, to be a part of the program who's not figured in 1 or 2. Everybody else is looking for that next opportunity. And what's unfortunate today is they have lost the value of uniformity. You cannot be successful in this program year in and year out without knowing your neighbor, knowing your fellow locker mate, knowing your fellow teammate, and building a continuity. This thing with Steve Myers started out great my freshman year, but it was my sophomore year when he and I came back over the summer, trained, worked, and were ready to come back and present a great product. We were able to do that and be one of the top throwing tandems in the country that year. And so you don't do that 1 year and then you leave, you go somewhere else, you try to build that the next year. And I think guys are losing on that. The best thing in the world that, I guess I could honestly say this, the best thing in the world that I've got out of my college careers is that a lot of my college teammates are still my friends today, because we had a relationship. We had time invested in each other. We competed with each other year in and year out. We knew them. We supported each other. We helped when we were down. I mean, you don't get to know anybody. And so am I a fan of the NIL? I guess I am. I'd probably be more of a fan if I was a college kid again with all that money out there. But I also feel this. It's something about having a team. That team continuity where you know each other. You can go out and battle. I don't know what a first-year guy is going to do if he breaks off his route and I go, I don't expect that. We didn't spend time enough for me to know that personality about him or to understand that quarterback. And it takes a lot of commitment to even get to that point. So that's my thought about it. I don't condemn and hate the NIL portion of this deal. Yeah, compensate these kids, do all that. But then how are you fair in it? That part I don't understand yet, because this is not the pros, and these young minds don't understand how to differentiate. Oh, he got $100,000 and you're only giving me this, or he got $500,000 and I'm only getting this. You're going to start getting these attitudes, and they already started at some programs. You got kids leaving because somebody lied to them about $1. So I think the game's headed in the wrong place, and it's just unfortunate the way it's running. I just wish there was a smoother transition with it and a better outcome, but I just don't see the continuity in programs anymore. I think that's what's going to separate a lot of that.
Preston, well said, because I think you make those cases and points about working with teammates and 2 or 3 years worth, getting better. And it's something fans have to accept. We've had to accept it. JT Toppin, the former Lobos, making $4 million at Texas Tech. Donovan Dent is making $3 million. UNM's not going to pay that kind of money. Richard Pitino left for $4 million at Xavier. So to all your points there, and people get upset about what they're not making, I get it. I really do. I got a couple more questions for you. With the revamped Mountain West Football Conference next season, a lot of teams are leaving. Are you optimistic UNM can compete regularly for a conference championship? Well, taking into consideration all the things you said, but with the revamped conference, are you confident New Mexico can compete regularly for a conference championship?
Well, honestly, to honestly answer that question, you need to see who the players are. You need to see who the new folks are coming into the conference. You need to really size this thing up because of the scenario of where we are with everything and the free flight of a lot of these players. because there's so many factors now in your success wagon that you need to have. And first of all, you got to have the players, and you got to have the players you had the year before that made a difference for you. It'd be a tragedy if 20, 30 guys leave out of this program from a very successful first-year campaign and scatter elsewhere because now they feel they've milked their oats and they think they're qualified for more dollars. We are who we are, but if it's about competition, it's really going to come down to who's going to be in the conference, what teams are going to be available, what teams are coming in, and then how do we size up against. And if UNM can keep at least 60% of their kids, they win the conference. It doesn't matter who comes in, because a lot of teams are not going to have that luxury of a component of players that said, oh, we're coming back. We had a great feel. We have a good system. We played in a system that we mastered well. Now we can come back and be dominant. And so I'm willing to see how that's going to play a big factor in next year.
Huge, great points there. And you would know, you've been there. You've been, played at the collegiate and professional level with great success. Couple more things for you, Preston. You wanted to share a story about your coach Lionel Taylor.
Coach Taylor,
one of the great pros at Denver, one of the great football men in the NFL. You wanted to share a story. Go ahead.
Well, I've a few folks know this, but I've had the wonderful pleasure. Lionel Taylor coached the Steelers. He's coached some great all-pro receivers. Frank Lewis, Swan, Stallworth, Ron Jesse, Willa Miller with the Rams. I mean, just a ton of guys. And here this little skinny kid from New Mexico comes up, and he's from New Mexico Highlands, and he saw one thing in me. And he saw me run the ropes. Today they have the ground level ladders that they can just step in and out. We had foot-high ropes that we had to step in and out. And I could step through them very, very quickly. Nobody else was fleet of foot like me. That stood out to Lionel. And from that point on, we formed a relationship. He as my receivers coach, offensive coordinator. He really developed me. I had a lot of fun. He had a lot of confidence in me. And he would put me in the thick of things. Well, years go by. We're friends after the game, along with Gene Huey, my college receivers coach. And we just this past a year ago summer, I had the pleasure of representing, this summer, representing Lionel at the Hall of Fame. He was inducted for the Special Achievement Award for assistant coach. And he went in with one of our equipment manager from the Rams, Don Hewitt. So his son, current equipment manager, and we were both there representing them. The family asked me to represent them at the Hall of Fame ceremonies, and I went. I had a wonderful time, had a chance to go on stage, talk about Coach to Dan Fouts, who was the MC, and had a lot of compliments about the fine words that I shared about Lionel. But I'll tell you this story about Lionel Taylor. Lionel Taylor was one when I was a rookie. He would, we'd have training camp, and then at the end of the day, we have meetings, the team, then your unit, and then you go into your receivers meeting. And Lionel would always try, along with the veterans and the rookies and everybody that was in this room, maybe 20 guys, he would try every night to make the guys feel like they were wrong about what they were doing on a board. And he would intentionally talk them out of the right answer. But he would always, and I learned from that. I'd be sitting there and I knew my stuff, and I see, and the guy was right. And coach said, oh, that ain't right. That ain't right. How am I going to play you? Daggone it, I can't trust you to make the right decision. And the guy would be right. But if you buckled, then he would say in front of everybody, that's why I can't depend on you to go into the game and execute, because you were correct, but you didn't believe what you put up there. So you're going to be hesitant in the game. So I was proud to have never been that guy that didn't stand by what I believe, because I knew my stuff very well. And I think that went off really good for him. He trusted me. And so it resulted in me being a starter my second year in the league, rookie free agent. I'm number 6 on the depth chart. I get moved all the way to start against the Raiders. And then it was an 8-year career.
You know, what a great story, man. And that guy's making you think. And remember, this is before iPads. This is chalkboard stuff, man. You know, right? It's a lot different back then. Got the erasers you clap together, the whole thing, a lot different. Yeah. So these guys got their, just two more questions for you. Do you plan to be there Saturday on the sidelines in Phoenix on the UNM sideline?
Wait, say it again.
Do you plan to be on the sideline Saturday in Phoenix at the Rate Bowl?
Oh, would love to, but no, I won't be there. I'll have the TV on, taking a peek at it just to watch and support. But no, I won't be there. I have dove into trying to finish a book that I'm writing on my career. So I've been truly invested in that, taking a lot of time away from work, getting ready to retire from it, and just really excited about this book. I got a ton of words in it already. Don't know if it's going to be 2 volumes or what, but I got a lot of stuff to say, and that's what I've been doing. But I will be watching those Lobos from the screen.
Plug your book, Preston. When can we look for the release?
I'm hoping it is ready, published and ready for me to tour it for next football season, end of the summer and through next football season. But it's a good one. It's about something folks don't know about me and how sports became a part of my life and made a difference. And truly is going to blow folks away because they would have never thought Preston Dennard was that kid. And I was that kid. And just thank God I was able to overcome some of the challenges I've had and to blossom into the person I end up being. But I have sports to thank for it, God giving me sports. And I tell you what, man, it's been a beautiful ride. It's been wonderful. I've shared my career through training and developing young people throughout the years, and just did it free because I loved it. I just love training young people, love training young coaches how to coach. Enjoyed all that, had a wonderful time with the whole gambit. And this is what God presented to me and made it a great success. And just love being the entrepreneurial spirited guy that I was, helping to raise funds in this community over the years. So I've had a wonderful time. It's been a joy. The book's going to be a result of that. And I'm just so excited where we are at UNM and just hope that we can carry this thing on from here.
We just one more thing. I talked to April Lynn Chavez Geisler, the president of the New Mexico Sports Hall of Fame today. I'm on the board, and she told me you're also a wonderful singer. So maybe we'll see something about that in the book.
There's plenty of that in the book.
Okay. Yeah,
I don't know if folks know it.
I was like, I didn't know Preston sang. I said, I got to ask him about that. So that was just today. So we're looking forward to seeing that. Preston Dennard, former UNM and the professional football wide receiver with the Los Angeles Rams, the Buffalo Bills, and Green Bay Packers. We can't thank you enough for being our guest tonight. It was a lot of fun. We'd like to get you back on.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Ed. Enjoyed it.
We'll be back after these messages on the Print Press Live.
Because Capital Ford is celebrating 60 years in business, we're holding a very special signature sales event where we're rolling out our strongest offers of the year on every new Ford car, truck, and SUV in stock, like a new 2025 Ford Bronco Sport. Lease today for just $399 a month or 0% APR for 60 months, plus no payments for 90 days on a new 2025 Ford F-150. But hurry, this signature sales event is for a limited time at Capital Ford in Santa Fe.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pit Press Live. I am your second co-host of this evening, Eric Moulton. Ed, that was a fantastic interview, man. Really impressive person, Preston Dennard. I feel a little kind of bummed out that I didn't have the time to watch him or be around the program or UNM athletics in that era. But what a great get. Interview was great. Wanted to get your thoughts on sitting down with them for 30 minutes.
Well, what's funny, because none of you guys were born, man. None of you guys, none of you were born. And I didn't think I might have told my son about him, but he's, as you saw, he's a good interview, but he's a better, I thought he gave great insight on the NIL, about teammates working with them 3 or 4 years. I thought he gave great insight about what transfers depends on who you're going to get. I thought he gave great insight on that. He was a good pro, man, solid pro, like we mentioned, played in the Super Bowl. Had to try out as a free agent. He came here from New Mexico at a time when we mentioned Arizona and Arizona State were still in the WAC. So, he finally answered my text. I texted him last year and he finally answered like, "Oh, Ed, I just didn't see it." And I was glad to get him on and would love to get him back on again. But those are guys that I think that played in the past that you need to hear from. What do they think? And his views are taken very seriously because of what he accomplished at UNM and in the pros. So it was a pleasure to have him on.
Yeah, man, I really liked his story about the coach that would challenge them in the locker room and challenge them to make the right decision and have confidence in the choices that you're making, and just kind of steering guys in the wrong direction to see if they could test their limits and stuff like that. Man, it's a life lesson, right? Like, you're in a high pressure situation, what decision you're going to make. And I don't know. I really like that analogy there. But I think now is probably a good chance to transition into the second half of our podcast. Is going to be more Lobo hoops driven. We will cover a little bit about the Mountain West, kind of what happened around the league. But before I do, I want to thank some of our sponsors, Affordable Solar. Neil over there has been gracious enough to stick by our side for as long as he has. They're a local family-owned solar company with local financing available. Capital Ford and Zach Brandt up in Santa Fe. They also work with Quick Lane, New Mexico Ford dealership service providers, oil change, mechanical work, and more. So let's get into the UNM San Jose State breakdown 88-64 win. And I'm going to kick it to an old friend of the show and now the host of his own podcast out in the San Jose area. Ricky, welcome back to the Pit Press, man. How you been? Long time no talk.
Yeah, doing well, guys. I bother Nick and I call into his show with Kenny and I text Ed. And for those of you that don't know, I've been playing AAU basketball against Eric since middle school when he was on the Busters, I believe. So happy to be back on the show talking Lobos with you guys. And let's get into the game, however you guys want to start it up here.
Yep, I will share in the comment section below, I did include Ricky's YouTube channel link as well as his podcast on Spotify. So, and joining us this evening, in addition to Ed and Rick, friend of the show, lawyer, beat writer, lots of nicknames, but the better half of the Nunez duo. Nick, what's up, man? How are you?
Appreciate you, Eric. Good to be with you, man. Dad, great interview with Preston Dennard. I didn't get the chance to catch all of it, but was looking up kind of his career with the LA Rams and playing with the Lobos. To have a guest like that is big, so props to you for getting him on. And no, I'm excited to have Rick back on the show and break down UNM's 88-65 win over San Jose State.
Rick, since we bugged you and brought you back to the show, I'm going to pass it to you first, man. Overall impression of, let's start with the San Jose State breakdown yesterday, but I want to get your impression on what you've seen so far out of the Lobos with the new look Olin scheme.
Sure. I think this game kind of mimicked a lot of the games for the Lobos so far, where they come out a little bit slow. As we know, Eric Olin and the team scheme is to let the opposing team to shoot a lot of three-pointers. In the past few games, that opposing team has made a lot of those three-pointers, going 9-0 down early to Florida Gulf Coast. In this game, San Jose State comes out streaking hot on threes. But what always seems to happen, especially at home, is the scheme of having them continue to shoot threes eventually pays off. Their defensive efficiency now sits in the top 60 in KenPom adjusted efficiency in the country. And that's something that's been consistent from the beginning. And I think that's how that game kind of played out last night against San Jose State. Colby Garland, a guy they couldn't really slow down the whole game regardless of what they did, but they really slowed down the rest of the guys. And I was kind of fearful of an upset, especially the way San Jose State played the Lobos last year, even though a lot of those guys are gone from San Jose State. Just the injuries the Lobos had, the missing bodies, and then calling on guys that haven't really had their numbers called. But 36 points from the bench, can't really say enough about that. And I think we're just seeing the depth that we were promised at the beginning of the year. And I didn't think this team probably had 10 guys deep. Well, they've showed it, and hopefully they can get strong as they face Boise here.
Hey, Nick, I'm going to hand over this next question to you, but Rick did touch on it on just the overall bench explosion and the depth of this team. I don't think we realized how deep it could go, but we started to see a little bit once TJ Rock started to get more minutes. And then at that big man spot, we're starting to see it go a little bit deeper. What was your overall analysis on Milos's performance and then just overall depth on this team?
Yeah, man, I think like Rick said, 36 bench points from this team was really big. Milos Vicentic hadn't seen double-digit minutes all season long. He had coming back from injury last year in the first game of the season with UC San Diego. He had a foot injury. And Eric, when we sit on press row, I kind of pay attention to the bench, and I'm looking like who's sitting on the bench, who's warming up. And he's somebody that I remember against Santa Clara. He had gotten in the first half, I think, and then instead of just sitting on the bench, they had him kind of warming up on the ramp. So I feel like that injury is still kind of lingering for him at times. Coach Olin had said in the postgame press conference it had taken some time for him to get back. But just to see him score the way he did, man, I mean, what was he, 7 for 9 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3? I thought, San Jose State's defense, the way they played the screen and roll at times in the game, they had some hard hedges, which opened up some pick and pop for him. He hit kind of 2 threes from the top of the key off of that defensive coverage, I thought. And then, 36 bench points, but it comes from 3 guys, right? 19 from Milos Vicentic, 11 from Uriah Tenet, and 6 from Tajavis Miller. That's the other guy I'll touch on. I mean, it's really good to see him get back on the floor and make some plays, man. I mean, he was the first guy off the bench in the first half against New Mexico State, and he had a really good game earlier in the season against UC Riverside. I think he was 3 for 3 from the three-point line against East Texas A&M at the beginning of the year, and then just kind of had fallen in Eric Olin's doghouse. Against Nebraska, that's the last game he really saw significant minutes. I think he was like 0 of 7 from the field. And so, Dayton Albury in the postgame press conference talked about how he's Tajavis Miller's roommate. He had really been encouraging him, hey, just kind of keep your head in it. You never know when your number is going to be called. And Tajavis Miller, 2 really big second-half threes to really extend that lead for UNM. The Lobos go on a 17-0 run and really put San Jose State away. So, Eric, I thought the depth for the Lobos was phenomenal last night, considering they were playing without 2 starters.
Ed, I do want to get your thoughts on the game too, but I just want to play a quick soundbite from Eric Olin on some of the opportunities for some of the bench guys at the press conference following the game.
Everyone wants to play, right? So anytime guys aren't in the rotation, there's a level of disappointment, and there should be, right? Because if you don't want to play, then right, what are we doing? So, but I feel like for not just a day here and there, but for a extended period of time, they've done a good job in practice and done the things that have been asked of them, and they took advantage of their opportunities tonight.
Ed, wanted to get your thoughts on the overall bench play, and I think we've talked about Tajavis Miller in previous shows. Nick, you just mentioned him. He's a guy that's proven to be another three-point threat, just hasn't been able to make the rotation, and it's been by choice, but he came out and had an opportunity last night. He capitalized, and the same with Milos. Hasn't gotten an opportunity, but when he did, those two didn't let it slip away. What were your thoughts?
First of all, hey, Rick, good to see you back, man. Glad to have you back on. I think one of the things about staying ready, not pouting, I think that's the biggest thing, because some guys that don't play, Coach Olin mentioned that there's a lull. People get body language. I'm a big watcher of body language, man, to see how people react. But look, if you're Tim Miles and you're thinking before the game, hey, they got 2 starters down. Vicentius, that dude don't even play, man. Let him shoot. You might be thinking that if you're the opposing coach. Vicentius hadn't shot a lot of threes. Hey, man, let him shoot, right? Boom, knocks him down. Javis Miller has been out of the rotation. So if you're Tim Miles, you're like, hey, man, we feel good about these dudes coming in because they really haven't played very much. I think the efficiency to which New Mexico has executed, if you look at it, 80 points against Mississippi State, 93 against Alabama State, a game they're down, 97 against Highlands, 98 against Santa Clara, 81 against VCU, 75 against Florida Gulf Coast, 88 yesterday. I think yesterday what amazed me, and Rick alluded to it a little bit, the way they're moving the ball, the extra pass. And everybody says you got to knock down the shots. They've been knocking down the shots. Mid-range, they killed it last night for mid-range, and that had been one of the things that they hadn't done well. So I think the way and when you have guys that are contributing off the bench that you don't expect to contribute, you don't know. Vicentius he had been out of the rotation too. He came up big with 19 last night. Big. Not only did he hit some threes, nice little drop step off the window. I thought he played big. And my son mentioned that too to Javis Miller. Made the most of his opportunities. So what you're seeing, Antonio Chol, I thought played well in spots. But he's becoming a shot blocker. I saw him block another shot. He did that against VCU. I still think you can get more from that dude. I really do. That guy could be a slasher and a rim attacker. I don't know that he does that enough, but he played well in spots. So I think Coach Olin in New Mexico, they're 10-2. At first when we saw this, we weren't sure how it was going to go. But the last couple of games, look at their offensive efficiency and the way they've moved the ball. Uriah to net, Jake Hall last night. It's a new guy every night. We didn't expect that from Vicentius last night, or to Javis Miller had been forgotten. So 2 starters are hurt. 2 guys come in off the bench and contribute. New Mexico's Coach Olin has to feel very good about it.
Talking about the front court now, because the Lobos did dominate the paint. They got 36 points, and they're just inside the arc dominance. They shot a staggering 83.3%, 20-24 in the 2-point field goal range, which is basically unheard of. I do want to play you a sound clip, and Rick, I'm going to hand over this next question to you, just to kind of give us a breakdown of your overall impression of San Jose State, some of their playing style, since they are technically in your backyard. But here's Coach Olin on UNM's kind of rim pressure throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. I don't think you ever go in expecting to go 20 or 24, but we feel like we're a team that can finish around the basket. We felt like we could get in the paint. They did some things differently that they hadn't been doing, and just relative to ball screen coverages and a lot less hard hedge than we were kind of expecting. But I think a lot of that just comes from the ball movement, sharing the basketball. Dayton has 7 assists. I think anytime we touch the paint and kick it out and drive it again, like we have the opportunity to really get depth on our drives, and thought we made some good end to drive decisions. But that's where everything starts, is putting pressure on the rim.
Hey, Rick, I've been kind of critical of this team early on in the season, just for their kind of, I guess, habits to fall back on, of just settling for the outside shot a little bit too much. But you can start to see a shift where they're starting to focus on getting the ball in the paint. And I know on your podcast, you've actually talked about wanting to get more paint touches, getting Bullion the ball, getting TJ Rock the ball down low. But wanted to get your kind of analysis of the last couple of games. The paint touches have definitely gone up, but now they're starting to be effective with it. What can you say about that?
Right, and I think along with it is just how effective Dayton Albury has been probably the last 4 to 5 games, where the first half of the season he was very ineffective, right? He's fallen on the ground a lot at the end of his drives, and the passes he was making were not catchable for the shooters. Now he's playing off 2 feet more, right? More like to net, making that jump stop, not flying. And when he is flying at the rim now, he's drawing fouls. One thing that I still have not seen is the feeds to Rock or Bullion. And when they do get the passes, the post entries are terrible passes. The guards are not good at throwing the pass right now. JT Rock had someone sealed last night, but the benefit of that is, as we all know, is making the defense react and shift. And if the drive of Albury or Tennard or Hall or whoever it is can draw that extra defender, then that makes the whole defense shift. And when the ball goes up, they're out of position to rebound, and hopefully the rebounds, will come on the offensive glass for the Lobos. But I think falling in love from the three is something that Chol has been doing, right? Last night, I think almost all his shots were from three. And we know he has a mid-range game. We've seen it in spurts. And if he would just give a head fake and go to the hoop, I would like to see him get to the line more. Because they're not a really good three-point shooting team. They're still around 32% on the year. And you can't convince me that all these threes are good shots, Ed, even though I know that's what Olin wants and that's his system. I think not all three-pointers are created equal. And the games that they actually played the best, for instance, VCU and Santa Clara, I think they were under 20 three-point attempts. I know that's not possible every time, but when they had to do it against a team like VCU that limits threes, they still played good basketball.
Hey, Nick, I want to stay on this topic a little bit, more so just focusing on Dayton Albury and kind of his switch in role a little bit, right? Like I think early on in the season, we saw his role playing out more as like a score first point guard, right? Getting downhill, looking to attack the rim. But lately, he's kind of turned more into a facilitator, looking for shooters on the perimeter. What's your breakdown there? And do you think this is all intentional?
Yeah, I mean, 10 points, 7 assists last night. Like Rick said, the 3 games coming into this game against San Jose State, Dayton Albury was averaging 16.6 points per game, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. So I think it was just taking him some time, Eric. People were hard on him at the beginning, saying we didn't get what we paid for. We expected a lot more out of him. And I think that's fair considering how much college basketball he's played. He's the most experienced player on the team in Division I. But I think it just took him some time to get used to Olin's system. I agree with Rick. He's playing a lot more under control over these last 4 to 5 games. And I mean, I think he said in the post-game press conference yesterday when he was interviewed that, he's just doing a better job of finding his teammates. But one other thing I'll point out, Eric, Olin has defended really all of his guys in every post-game press conference. He never throws anybody under the bus. But when he was getting questions about Albury early in the season, he was saying, Dayton gets 2 feet into the paint, he kicks it out, and sometimes we're just not making a shot. And yesterday, UNM started 1 for 11 from the three-point line. It was starting to look kind of ugly. And then after that, I think they shot 8 for 16 the rest of the way. So they shot 50% kind of the last 30 minutes of the game. So I think, for Dayton, it just took him a little bit of time to get used to the scheme, to get used to his new teammates. Now that he's kind of gotten that under his belt, we're seeing him get close to midseason form, and he looks really good.
What I have up on the screen now is just overall shot selection and points on the floor where the Lobos were able to get hot from. You could just see there inside the three-point line, they were really effective at getting around the rim and converting around the rim too. You could see it's just a big red blob right around the rim. So the picture definitely paints the picture of what happened last night, sort of the statistics. And Ed, I want to focus again more towards the backcourt, and we haven't talked about TJ Rock too much this evening, but wanted to get your impression of him. He got his first start as a Lobo last night, finished with 11 points, continues to be a solid rim protector, right? I think he got another block last night. I just start to see his role gradually increase, and as that role is starting to increase, so is his confidence. What are you getting from TJ Rock? Because I know that you've been singing his praise now for the last couple of weeks.
I think JT Rock is improved every game. There's no doubt about it. I wanted to see what he do last night with extended minutes being a starter. He's got that nice little left-hand hook he's developed. I like that. One of the things I think Rick is absolutely right. Kenny goes crazy on Kenny Thomas on Unfiltered. When they don't feed him the ball, he's like, hey, man, give him the ball, because he's a big man that played in the post. So when they don't give him the ball, one thing I did notice, and I told my son this, I don't know that he holds his base low enough sometimes. They're riding him up the lane. That'll come with more experience. He's 7'1". Get me a good base, man. Give me a target. He'll learn. There's a couple of times he got the ball in the post. He didn't know quite what to do. His tool bag isn't there yet, but it's getting there. You've seen improvement. Remember, Kenny and I talked about that. To play in the post like that, in the paint's a lot different. Catch the ball. What are you going? You got a go-to move. That little left-handed hook has been his go-to move. He's going to develop more. He's 7'1". He's playing bigger. If you're 7'1", Daniel Ferris, who we had on a couple of weeks ago, if you hear him on the radio, you're 7'1", play like you're 7'1". He cracks me up because Daniel will say whatever's on his mind. He just blurt it out. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I think it's kind of endearing. He doesn't wait. He just tells you what he thinks. So I think he's improved. I think there's still, and somebody asked, and I don't know if you were there, son, when they asked if they're going to play Bouillon. They called in to Kenny last night, Kenny's show, Kenny Thomas, and are they going to play Bouillon and Rock together? You got to look at matchups. Nick mentioned it too. You're switching out, on guards, and that's not sometimes the best matchups for UNM and playing two big guys. So we'd have to see about that. But I think he's come a long way, and I think he's still got a lot of work to do. Got to go to a little bit of post-school moves and develop a little bit more. And I'm not criticizing; it's just what I see. But he's come a long way. He's only going to get better. He'll be a big factor in conference play, I think.
I want to address a question real quick because we will cover it a little bit. I think Nick actually got a clip ready for the new UNM commit. He's a 4-star right now. I think he's only a junior though. So we'll have more on that kind of towards the middle of the show once we kind of wrap up talking the San Jose State breakdown. Hey, Rick, I'm going to ask you another question kind of around the freshman theme. Jake Hall finished with 18 points last night. 12 of those points came in the second half. And that kind of fueled a 17-0 run there in the second half where UNM kind of took a 13-point lead, but that lead just ballooned and they ran away with it. What is your impression of one of the freshmen overall on this team and then just kind of the impact they're making? And then Jake Hall. I think Jake Hall has completely taken this team by storm, has taken the Mountain West by storm, and carrying a lot more load than you would think a traditional freshman would.
Right. So I think Bouillon is the freshman, obviously, that we expected the most from, and he's giving us the most. I expect him to be all conference player when it's all said and done, and he's been showing that. But the two that I was, questionable about, obviously Hall and Tennett, they have far surpassed any expectations I had for them. The patience and understanding that both of them have in their game at this point is incredible to watch. And even, I guess, if we focus on Tennett here and just how his, understanding of where to be on offense, what shots to take. You see him now taking that turnaround mid-range shot. He's 5'10", being able to control the paint. And last night you see him going up for the putback rebound, finishing. So not only, I just thought he might be someone, that pumps up the crowd, maybe gets a defensive play here or there. He's the first guy off the bench. He comes in at 17 minutes or 18 minutes. And if you watched anything I recorded preseason, I didn't think Tennett would be maybe getting more than 5 to 10 minutes a game. And he's probably their most important piece off the bench in my eyes right now. On top of his offense, the point of attack on defense, when he and Albury are out there, their defensive efficiency skyrockets. And of course, like you're mentioning, Hall, he's on pace to be, one of the top 3-point shooters in the single season in Lobo history right now, up there with Anthony Mathis, Kevin Henry, Clayton Shields, all the great shooters. He's on course right now to be up there with those guys in a single season. And when we heard Dayton Albury and others before the season saying, watch out for Jake Hall, I thought he was kind of getting pumped up too much because we hadn't seen it against Division I players. And his game mimics that. They always say of an older guy at the gym with his series of head fakes and fadeaways. But he is a shooter. And I love Daniel Ferris on the radio too, Ed, because he wants Jake Hall to shoot it every time he gets it. And I don't blame him right now because one thing with freshmen, you worry about their confidence. Hall had one bad game 2 or 3 games ago where he had a rough shooting night, and he came back, with 5 of 7 3-pointers, I think, following that game. So the mental toughness of these freshmen has really impressed me, all 3 of the contributors.
Nick, I'm going to kick this over to you now. I know you had that clip brought up. We're going to transition more to that high school recruit now. What do you know about him, Nick?
So not too much, Eric. I mean, we just got the news last night, and I've been kind of looking at him a little bit. Tavede Johnson, class of 2027, the number 97 overall recruit. He's the number 23 shooting guard and the number 3 shooting guard in the state of, or number 6 shooting guard in the state of California. You see his clips here. This was from 3 weeks ago. These are his highlights from Francis Parker High School in San Diego, California. He's a junior, I want to say. I'm not entirely sure. Again, he's class of 2027. But, I mean, you look right there. That's the one-step fadeaway, man. And he's just got a lot of different things to his game. He can finish at the rim. One thing that I see from his three-point shot, that ball is laced up almost perfectly. So he's just a really dynamic scorer, really dynamic player. He's had some tremendous numbers. I'm not sure exactly what he's averaging during his current season in high school, but I bet Rick probably has some good information about him as well, Eric.
I don't know if I have too much more than you, but yeah, I think he's a junior class right now. Put up 30 to 40 points in his previous games. He was getting recruited by other big schools like Cal, Florida State, USC, and Washington. So this is a 4-star rated, high-level recruit. Got to hope that he stays with us these next year and a half until we can get him on campus.
So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to break down some of what was going on around the Mountain West, some pretty big scores, some pretty big differences in those games, but give us about a minute, and we will be right back.
Because Capital Ford is celebrating 60 years in business, we're holding a very special signature sales event where we're rolling out our strongest offers of the year on every new Ford car, truck, and SUV in stock, like a new 2025 Ford Bronco Sport. Lease today for just $399 a month or 0% APR for 60 months, plus no payments for 90 days on a new 2025 Ford F-150. But hurry, this signature sales event is for a limited time at Capital Ford in Santa Fe.
And welcome back to the Pit Press Live. Ed had to step away for the night, but I am still joined by Nick Nunez and making a guest appearance, another appearance on the Pit Press, Ricky from the Cherry Heat Check podcast. Again, you can check the comments on our YouTube channel on this post. You can find Rick's new podcast, his YouTube channel. Give him a shout. He covers Lobo basketball pretty extensively and does a pretty damn good job. But guys, I'm going to transition the show now, talk a little bit more Mountain West hoops, go around the league, and give me one sec. Not sure if either of you had a chance to watch any other games from around the league, but I did have a chance to kind of dabble in a few of them. Obviously, I watched the UNM one, but one of the games that tipped off the day, I think it was a noon tip time here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Colorado State gets just completely outrun of the gym against Utah State. That game was 100-58. Looks like Utah State just took complete control from the tip-off, jumping out to a 12-0 lead, led by Mason Falslove. He had 10 of those 12 points just right out the gate. Utah State just had their foot on the gas the entire game, controlled the tempo, moved the ball well, just continued to get open looks, and Colorado State didn't have any answers to them. So, Rick, I'm going to hand it to you. I'm not sure if you had a chance to watch much of that game, but wanted to get your take on it as we just kind of go back and forth on it.
Sure, I did watch a little bit, but by the time I turned it on, it was already a double-digit game. I think key factor in the game, Kyle Jorgensen, big man for Colorado State, who looked like possibly an all-conference level player so far, goes out after 4 minutes with an ankle injury. And Colorado State just really doesn't have a lot of depth at the forward position, turned into Joppa, which really doesn't do the same things as Jorgensen. And Colorado State being one of the best shooting teams in the country from three-point land, from two, from the three-point line. I thought this team under Coach Farouk Manesh would cool off. They definitely cooled off, but that's due to Utah State's defense. But I'll turn it to Nick. What do you think, Nick, has been the key for Utah State so far this year, and what helped them roll yesterday?
Probably their depth, Rick. I know it's kind of easy to say that about every team that's playing well, but, just kind of comparing them to last year, they were so guard-oriented with Ian Martinez and Mason Falslev and some of the other guys they had in the backcourt. Their front court players, their most effective player was Carson Templin. Gatoretzy didn't really give them much at the 5 spot this year. Look at this freshman, Alden Elamine, 15 points, 8 rebounds. You're bringing Templin off the bench now. And then you got Gary Clark, the transfer from Texas A&M Corpus Christi, 8.6 rebounds yesterday. They're just so deep, man. They had 6 guys in double figures yesterday against Colorado State. One thing for CSU, I know this was mentioned on the broadcast, Rick, like you, I started tuning into the game kind of in the second half, but by that point it was blown wide open. And they had mentioned that CSU and their flight from Denver to Logan, Utah, they got delayed and they didn't get into Logan, Utah until late. And then they had a 12 p.m. tip-off the next day. So that could have affected them. This kind of was the first true road game for CSU this season. Another thing that may have been a factor. But with Jorgensen going out, they just did not have the front court depth. Like you mentioned, Utah State outscores Colorado State 48-20 in the paint, and Utah State out-rebounds Colorado State 40-20 with 16 offensive boards. Man, the Aggies looked really good yesterday, Eric.
Yeah, I will make another comment. So Mbepa, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, is also out. He's been out 6 straight games. He misses 6 straight. So right now, Colorado State doesn't really have a true big to kind of lean back on. You don't know what the outlook or the forecast is going to be for this team moving forward. I think throughout this season, they've been able to rely on guys like Pasquarelli. He just didn't show up yesterday. It was 2 for 10 from the field, finished with 6 points. He did hit 2 threes, but he's been one of the catalysts for that offense and being able to lead the country in 3-point shooting. So they kind of held him in content. But then if you look at the fast break point differential, Colorado State had 0 fast break points in this game compared to Utah State 17. So they just, that tells me that they weren't able to get up and down with how fast Utah State likes to move the ball up and down the floor. But at the same time, Utah State was just converting at such a high efficient level, there was no chance to get out on the break. When you look at what Utah State did from a shooting perspective, they shot about 65% from the field, which is crazy to even think about. But yeah, this game was basically over about 10 minutes into the first half, and there was no looking back from Utah State. So any other thoughts on this game, fellas, before I move on to the other game?
Just one last thing. I just think that Utah State right now is clearly the favorite And if obviously that was already known, but when you see them rolling at home and you even have Templin hitting threes, they're flexing the depth, like you're saying, of the post that they didn't have last year. And, Nick mentioned Gary Clark Jr. He is a monster on the glass, and I am really afraid of when the Lobos play them because it's going to be quite a challenge on the boards.
Yeah. One comment I'll make finally, Eric, is just kind of the difference in defensive scheme that Utah State is playing with this year. They played that matchup zone a lot last season. And when I turned on the broadcast yesterday, I mean, they were picking up guys full court. And you talked about all the transition opportunities that they got to run up and down. They just kind of get into you defensively, man, and just play with a different style, different pace. And I think that's just kind of generated a lot of offense for them, a lot of transition opportunities, and it just plays into their depth.
And the one final thought on the defense, Nick, is Tom Moser's hit on it a few times on his stuff. But last year, Utah State came out early in the season in that matchup zone, right? And by the end of the season, most teams had figured it out and they didn't play good basketball the tail end of the season. This season, they're not playing that zone. It fits the men that they have on their team better. I think Coach Calhoun was aware of what that did last year, and he's such a smart coach. He's not going to make the same mistake twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we move on, I actually had a comment from Coach Calhoun. Let me play it for you guys now.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors in this, right? We've had a lot of conversations about playing for the uniform, not yourself, sharing the ball, honoring the past, the history. I think all the great programs out there have a history of great teams. With every team, there's roles. Guys have different roles. I think what happens in college basketball now, everybody transfers because they don't like their role and they think it's going to be a significant jump. And you got to play to your strengths. That, to me, is what your role is. And I thought tonight guys played their part, they played their role, but they did that throughout the week, and they were rewarded by their hard work.
So one last comment I will make on this, and then we can move on to Nevada, Boise State, was I don't think the addition of MJ Collins for Utah State can go overlooked anymore because I would say that he's almost an upgrade to what they had last year in the duo with Mason Falslev, and his name just slipped my mind. Nick, you were just talking about him. But MJ Collins, Martinez, right, Rick? But yeah, MJ Collins has been a huge addition for them. He obviously had his own 11-point spurt that kind of pushed the first half lead to 22, but with him and Falslev and then just other key pieces around them, they're going to be really hard to stop.
Yeah.
Looking ahead now to Nevada, they hosted Boise State. Nevada wins that one 81-66. And Nevada kind of controlled the pace and the tempo of this game from the jump. Really good game plan, I think, on Coach Alford's part because they sped Boise up is what it really came down to, and Boise State just didn't get really ever comfortable with that pace of play. They didn't shoot really well, but Nevada's defense ended up scoring 20 points off 13 Boise State turnovers, and Nevada was just able to convert at probably one of their best offensive games of the season, shooting at 55% from the field at 25 of 45, and then 4 of 9 from 3. The catalyst for them last night was Tayshaun Comer. He's the transfer from Eastern Kentucky and Evansville. He led all scorers with 24 points on the night, 5 for 9 field goal, and he shot 13 of 14 free throws. I know this game kind of got a lot of flack on Twitter. I know Moser mentioned it, but this game, I think there were like 65 free throw attempts overall, 47 fouls called. Rick, I'm going to hand this one over to you to get a chance to watch the Nevada and Boise State game.
Yeah, I did catch parts of it. Like you mentioned, Nevada up double digits early, had a 10-point lead at halftime, which is surprising because Nevada is a little bit undermanned now, playing without Corey Camper and big man Joel it starts with a Amatoring or something like that. But they're missing 2 of their players. You got to give your hat off to the coaching staff there for getting the guys ready, because the thing I was worried about Boise, although they had probably three of the most impressive non-conference wins in the last month with their wins over St. Mary's, Butler, and Utah Valley. The question for me was their depth. And in this game, no one off their bench really, I guess the bench played as good as the starters, but all around the transfers, Dylan Andrews and then the big man from Georgetown, Fielder, did not have good games. And they have kind of been up and down this year. A guy I know that I think the three of us saw, like Peanut Carmichael, the shooter from Boise. He's been kind of up or down, where he can look like Reggie Miller one game, and then he can look like me the next game, right? Just clanking it off the rim. So the question for Boise is, can they win enough road games? Right now, they might be a bubble team, even though they lost that terrible game to a D2 school early. But I think I'm very pleasantly surprised with Nevada. They're playing really good basketball right now, and they're doing it with a mix of guys that I don't think Coach Alford would have imagined at the beginning of the season. But what did you guys see in the game? Did you guys catch it as well?
I didn't get the chance. Yeah, I didn't get the chance to watch it. I'll be honest. I did read about it a little bit, then caught some highlights. You know, one of the things I came across an article in the Idaho Statesman, that foul trouble, you know, fouls are part of the game. 47 total fouls is a lot. And we got a comment from Steve Singletary, which says too many fouls in the Nevada game. But two guys that were in foul trouble early for Boise State, you had Drew Fielder and Andrew Meadows. And Fielder only played 6 minutes in the first half. But Rick, you touched on this. I mean, Fielder had 6 points, Javen Buchanan 2 points. Those are Boise State's two leading scorers. And if you're going to win games on the road, you need your primary guys to show up. And, you know, couldn't get on the floor because of foul trouble. I understand that. But it just seemed like, you know, based on what I read and the clips that I saw, that the pace of the game was just dictated by Nevada on the defensive end of the floor. I read that they were trapping Buchanan in the paint, getting the ball out of his hands. I think he only had 3 field goal attempts in the game. And then the transfer, I think, correct me on his name if I'm getting it wrong, but Dylan Andrews, it didn't seem like he did much either for Boise State. So kind of the three guys that make them go, three of their, you know, guys that get a lot of minutes and get a lot of shot attempts, they didn't get much from them. And that's why they had the result that they did.
Yeah, Dylan Andrews is that transfer from UCLA that they had a really high hopes for, kind of being that guy to kind of lead the offense and fill that point guard spot. But I think Nevada's defense, the physical play of it was really disruptive. It didn't really give Boise State a chance to settle into the pace they like to play with. They settled for a lot of outside shots and just didn't knock down a whole lot of them. And then they caught Nevada on a really bad night too, because Nevada was playing well. But I do want to kind of pose a question to you guys, and maybe this is more of a bold take on your end. But I mean, will the real Boise State stand up? I mean, we've seen them play really good games, knock off a Butler team on the road. They knock off St. Mary's, and then they come in and just almost kind of put up a dud against Nevada. And I know that in-conference play is going to pose its own challenges because of really tough environments in the Mountain West and the travel and everything that's associated with that. But does this kind of raise a red flag for you for Boise State? And Rick, I'll start with you.
I think it's too early to raise a red flag on the entire season just because their defense is so good, right? I think it was one of the top, and going into that game, one of the top 30 Ken Pom defenses in the country. And when you have that, usually, you know, you don't need to play super great on offense. Last night, though, only scoring 66 points. That is alarming, Eric, but I don't know if we can just say that's it. If you're the Lobos, you got to know that Boise State is going to come in extra hungry now after that loss, a game they were favored in, right? Were they favored versus Nevada?
Yeah, I don't remember what the spread was, but
it was a couple points, even though they were on the road. So, you know, they're upset about it. They got a veteran group. Coach Rice was fired up in that game. He got a technical. It looked like he was trying to get kicked out of the game at the end. I don't know why he was so pissed off. I mean, they were already down and out of that game. So I think he'll get them back in it. Their defense is good enough. But the inconsistency on offense, and then Dylan Andrews, he is averaging 4 assists a game, but he's not really operating like Alvaro Cardenas was last year. That's able to get everyone involved. And like you mentioned, Buchanan, Nick, I was expecting him to possibly be an all-conference type player. He has not really done that type of play consistently. So I'm going to say they're still alive and well, because I expect them to bring it versus New Mexico.
Yeah, I
Nick,
think
your
those are,
thoughts?
yeah, I agree with a lot of that, Rick. And I mean, look, a lot of people hate on Leon Rice, but he's taken Boise State to postseason play, 4 out of the last 5 seasons they've been in the NCAA tournament. Think about how they played down the stretch of the season last year, almost played themselves into the field of 68 and had a good argument to get in. They were a bubble team. It's a different roster this year, and kind of the guy, Tyson Degenhart, that was the heart and soul of that team. He's gone. So Leon Rice has to find somebody else to step up. But I'll trust his body of work, man. That win against St. Mary's, I saw part of it, even though the stream was really bad. Got to give credit to their body of work, what they put together after losing that first game of the season to Hawaii Pacific. I thought they rebounded pretty well from their bad early season play. This was a bad loss. They had some days off from that St. Mary's game. They had like 6 days off and then had to travel on the road. So I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I agree with Rick. We need to see a little bit more from them.
Yeah. Nick, I'm going to let you kind of lead us into the GCU Wyoming game, because I know you were taking notes on that one. You had a chance to watch that. I know you read up a bunch of stuff too. So go ahead, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, really impressive from GCU on the defensive end of the floor. I mean, bottom line, they just came and punched Wyoming in the mouth really early. I mean, it was 18-3 to start the game. GCU went on a 16-0 run. And, GCU, this is a team that's been really up and down too. Newcomer to the Mountain West Conference this season. Had a really head-scratching loss to Youngstown State earlier. Looked okay in that exhibition game against USC, but they've been just so up and down, inconsistent on offense. One thing that has been consistent for them, though, is their defense. Coming into the Wyoming game, they were holding teams to 64 points, and I really thought their defense showed out really well against Wyoming. I mean, Wyoming's trio of leading scorers, Nazir Meyer, Caden Bennett, and Leland Walker, they went 9 for 27 from the field. They were all held below their season average. So just really good job by GCU on the defensive end. Offensively, they got point production spread out. Off the bench, Makai Williams, 20 points on 6 for 9 shooting. Jaden Henley, 18 points, he was 6 for 9. Then Nana Owusanane finished with 15 points. He had 12 points in the first half, really paced GCU. Wyoming kind of made a push to start the second half. They went on a 7-2 run, and I think they got the lead to like 12 or 13. But GCU just really anchored in, man. They set the tone from the beginning of the game, and just a really impressive conference opener for the Lopes.
Rick, you want to get some thoughts in, or do you want me to jump in first?
Just really quick on the Lopes. I've been mostly unimpressed with them so far. So this is a big time win for them to go into Wyoming and beat a team that's ranked ahead of them or was ranked ahead of them in the net at the time. So I think, the transfer Dusty Stromer from Gonzaga has been a disappointment. He's on the bench now, and he's still not making any shots. So he's been a big downfall for them. But I think if GCU can maybe win 7 or 8 games at home, steal most of these games on the road against teams they're stronger than, they could find themselves in the top 4 of the conference down the stretch, which I think would be a good thing for Coach Drew in his first season in the conference. So unimpressed so far, but this gives me hope.
Eric, real quick, what are your thoughts on Wyoming, man? I mean, a lot of people were high on this team coming in. They were 8-0 at home, had an impressive showing against Texas Tech, only lost by 4, but just didn't really have any impressive wins. I mean, do you pump the brakes on Wyoming now that they had this performance at home? Or, I mean, obviously we need more time. It's the first conference game of the season, but just when you see the result, what are your thoughts on Wyoming?
I'll start by saying I really like Coach Wicks, and this Wyoming team has been playing fairly well to start out the season. Now, it's the level of competition that draws some concern for me, but in one game that they did have a really good chance to take down someone big was against Texas Tech on the road, and they had them in a 4-point game with about, I want to say, 4 or 5 minutes left in the second half. So this team battles, and they've shown to be able to play at that level and compete. In the game against GCU, they just didn't shoot well. If you looked at some of their stat lines, like some of the guys that they really rely on in Nas and Meyer, they shot like an abysmal 3 of 26 from deep. Like, you're just not going to win if you're not going to knock down shots, and especially the 3-point line. To go 3 of 26 at home, you're not going to win many games. But I still like their chances. I still think they're going to be a lot better in this league than a lot of people are giving them credit for. And yeah, I kind of share the same thought on GCU that Rick does. Is I haven't been that impressed. They haven't really shown much in terms of being able to kind of take sole possession of a game, control the pace, and completely dominate their opponent. They're kind of just floating around and letting other teams kind of dictate that for them. I know that they have a good few key transfers in there. It's just they haven't really proven it to me. And I really want this GCU team to be good because it's going to be part of the new Mountain West. So those are my takes there. I'm not giving up on Wyoming yet. I still think there's plenty of juice to go.
Yeah, and I know you've paid attention a lot to their spectacular freshman, Naz Meyer, who I think's won Mountain West Freshman of the Week a couple times this season. I mean, I think we had Coach Moser on last week, and I mean, is Jake Hall getting gypped out, man? He's had almost had 5 20-point games last night, but is he getting gypped out, or is this Naz Meyer kid from Wyoming really that good?
No, I haven't watched him play too much, but the things and the highlights that I have been able to see from him, he's twitchy and he's got a complete all-around game. I think with Jake Hall's definitely a scorer, right? He can score at all 3 levels, but he just doesn't have that burst, that blow-by, that one-on-one capability, get to the rim. Jake might have that ability to kind of back someone down and get by with just pure footwork. Naz is able to elevate and kind of get around guys, but he's also a high volume, high efficient shooter from the outside. So I have to kind of agree with what the Mountain West selected. And even though this is a Lobos podcast, I think it's deserved that Naz is getting that kind of notoriety and recognition from the league.
Rick, your thoughts on Mountain West Freshman of the Year, man? I know it's really early. We still got about 2/3 of the season left, but Jake Hall, Naz Meyer, anyone else you think is a deserving candidate?
I mean, I think Tannette just gets forgotten because of how well Hall and Bouillon are playing. But if you look at Tannette's overall body of work, he, could probably have earned Freshman of Week any of these weeks that were played. If it weren't for these, super performances by Meyer. Bouillon, I believe, has won it twice himself, and he's putting up a double-double, but he's 5 years older than Tannette and Hall, right? So it's a little bit different. Maybe the Lobos will get some love once conference play starts here, but I definitely thought Hall deserved it that last round when he put up 24 points and went 5 of 7 from 3. I mean, I don't know many freshmen in the country that have had that stat line this year, let alone the Mountain West. So yeah, I think he got gypped.
Yeah, I would agree with that, man. Eric, I think next on the deck was number 1, Arizona defeating San Diego State 68-45. I didn't get the chance to watch this game. I'm not sure if either of you two did. I read a little bit about it. It seemed like San Diego State had control of the game defensively early. They were up 27-20 with about 2.5 minutes left in the first half. And then Arizona, they just kind of really got into it in the second half and just blew the lead open. But I guess, Eric, we'll start with you. What were your thoughts on the Arizona-San Diego State game?
Yeah, I thought San Diego State came out and punched back in that one from a physicality standpoint. We knew they were going to get real aggressive on defense because that's just what San Diego State is known for. But they matched Arizona blow for blow. Arizona just struggled to make shots in the first half. And for a while there, San Diego State, I wouldn't say pulled away, but they had like a 5 to 7 point lead. They were converting some baskets, but it was when in the second half that Arizona finally started to find its rhythm on offense, really started to execute that. If no one has had a chance to watch Arizona play, that Noah Pete or Koa Pete, true freshman for Arizona, is a freak of nature. He's 6'8", 6'9", but plays like, I don't know, a 6'5", 6'6" athletic guard, can rise, can get physical down low, can shoot it from the outside. He's just a really good, he might be a top 3 NBA draft pick type lottery guy. Just super, super talented, physical and athletic. But he was just really a kind of a tough matchup for San Diego State there in the second half. But I thought San Diego State came out and played aggressively. I think a lot of people, the spread at the beginning of the game was like at 14 or 15 points. Some thought it was too low just because of how well Arizona has been playing. But San Diego State came out in that first half, punched back. They just didn't have enough offensively in the second half to compete with the athletes that Arizona had. Rick, what did you see in that game?
Right, as you mentioned, almost tied at halftime, and I'm thinking to myself, they have a real chance, and then they come out in the second half and only score 18 points. This is a team, in my mind, that the one thing that could really throw them off, in my mind, at the beginning of the season is having too many cooks in the kitchen. And I think Brian Dutcher obviously is one of the best coaches in the whole country, but I think he's playing too many guys, and it's hard for gentlemen to find a rhythm. And in this game, the guys that you would expect to step up and the guys that you would think would be able to match up with Arizona, all of a sudden in the second half, they shrunk, and Miles Byrd couldn't hit a shot, or he didn't want to shoot. And Reese Dixon Waters at times he plays a great game, and then the next game comes back and is inconsistent, and we're waiting for Magoon Guath, right, to hit whatever potential, and we're waiting for him to come back from injury. But for some reason, it has not all come together for San Diego State consistently, and their offense right now is just head-scratching to me. I thought the addition of the point guard they brought in, Sean Newman Jr., would help. He's coming off the bench and not playing good basketball either. So they've turned to freshman Elsie Harrington, who's phenomenal, and he might be the best freshman in the conference if he was given enough time. But for San Diego State right now, totally the biggest disappointment to me in the conference. And this is a game, if we compared what San Diego State did in non-conference the previous few years, they beat a Gonzaga. They beat a Houston last year, if I'm not mistaken. They have not had that banner win this year in non-conference, and there's just a bunch of question marks around that team right now.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Rick. Another stat that stood out to me from the Arizona-San Diego State game, Arizona 20 offensive rebounds. They out-rebounded San Diego State 52-28. And, I think this is a San Diego State team that had some problems rebounding last year. Coach Dutcher talked about that in Mountain West Media Days. Their defensive scheme, I haven't watched them a ton this season, but, they like to switch a lot. So inherently that creates some mismatches on defense and can leave you vulnerable to other teams getting offensive rebounds. But they brought the physicality in the first half. Like you said, Eric, they couldn't quite match Arizona's physicality in the second half. And yeah, just frigid shooting numbers for the Aztecs. They were 1 of 14 from the three-point line, shot 25% from the field. And this is San Diego State team that's been shooting better from the three-point line this season. I think they were right around 41% coming into this game. But you don't shoot the ball well against the number one team in the country, that you're just not going to get it done.
And one last thought, the scary thing to me watching Arizona versus San Diego State, who I consider, a very physical team, is Farrell Compton was getting tossed around in the second half as if he was small, and he dominates guys in the Mountain West. So just to think about the different level that Arizona is on, like you're saying, Eric, with some of these athletes they made San Diego State look weak. So that's just how good they are right now.
Yeah, I think we're starting to see some of that Power 4 and the mid-major level basketball tiers kind of the gap widen a little bit more in terms of athletes. But yeah, I think Arizona came in as one of the biggest teams in the country, just based off of their starting five. So it is still San Diego State. BJ Davis is a guy that we haven't mentioned who has been playing really well, and he looked to get to the rim a couple times last night with his burst, being able to slash. This is still a really, really good team, right? Like, we still kind of have Miles Sanders to look out for. Miles Byrd, not Miles Sanders, sorry about that. But these guys, we talked to Tom Moser on the podcast last week, and he did give us that if there was one team in the Mountain West that still has the highest ceiling, he did say it was San Diego State, and I have to side with him on that one just based off of the level of talent and athletes that they have over there. It's just, it hasn't come together as quickly as I don't think a lot of people anticipated, and I think a big piece of that is Guath hasn't been healthy all year. He's moving around a little bit too gingerly or just kind of a step slow in that knee brace. So it's tough to say if he's ever going to fully recover this year. Go ahead.
One for you, one quick one for you on BJ Davis. He is their leading scorer, but he's coming off the bench. If you're Coach Dutch, do you plug him in the starting lineup and hope to get this offense going sooner in the first and second half by putting your number one scorer in there?
Well, that raises a question for me. It's like, well, why isn't he starting? Is it because he might be a liability on defense due to his size? But I mean, offensively, I think he's the best player in the team offensively. I mean, the points per game would show that. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah,
Nick.
Haven't watched enough of him, man. I mean, I don't know. I feel like San Diego State's just a team and a program that's been built on a defense-first approach. They last year, think about their first 4 game against North Carolina. They looked god-awful. God, they couldn't shoot the ball at all. There were times last year where they looked terrible offensively. That's just kind of the DNA of a Brian Dutcher team. So I think it's the defensive end and rebounding first for them. They got to figure that part out. Miles Byrd has been the head scratcher, and there's a good comment here from Steve Singletary. Seems to me that after Byrd tested the NBA waters, something happened and he's not playing the way he did in the past. I know Tom Moser's talked about this quite a bit with Byrd. It is kind of a head scratcher with him as to why he hasn't played well this season. But you got to trust the body of work, man. These guys have been there before. They played in the national championship 2 years ago, and in the Final Four. They got to the Sweet 16 about another year ago. So I think they'll figure it out towards the middle of conference play.
Yep. Well, Rick, we want to thank you for jumping on with us. I know we reached out to you yesterday to get your thoughts. Again, for anyone listening, watching, you can find Rick's podcast, Cherry Heat Check, in the comments on our YouTube channel. You can find his YouTube channel along with his Spotify, and you're probably on Apple Podcasts too, I would assume. But Rick, any final thoughts from you before we wrap this up?
No, just appreciate you guys for having me back on, and just really cool to see the work you guys have put in along with Ed, the other players you have on the team, and what you guys have built. So Nick and Eric continue to kill it on the show and on the radio. I'm really enjoying watching you guys grow. So thank you.
Appreciate that. Nick, any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, appreciate that, Rick. It's good to be on with you, man. I tune into the Cherry Heat Check a lot. Think you do a good job, get some good guests on. Just one other final thought, Eric, one game we didn't mention, UNLV defeated Fresno State 84-72. That was probably the best game of the night, honestly, in terms of competition in the Mountain West. That was a really back and forth game until UNLV pulled away. We'll see what the Rebels really are. They're another one of these teams. You never know what you're going to get, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but they put it together. And, kind of an underwhelming first week of Mountain West basketball, not a lot of competitive games. Teams are going to be off for a week for the Christmas holiday, and then we'll get right back into it early next week. So looking forward to it, Art.
Yeah, happy to jump on and chop it up. Rick, if you're open to it, we'll get you on again here soon, talk more Lobo hoops and just kind of what's happening around the Mountain West, the last season as we know it. But again, want to thank our sponsors, Affordable Solar, Capital Ford of Santa Fe, Quick Lane. We appreciate you guys. For Eric Moulton, Nick Nunez, and Ricky Thompson, you've been watching and listening to the Pit Press Live.